Tailscale is the key to self-hosting. It lets you connect all of your devices together no matter where they are, whether you're in a coffee shop, you have your laptop in your hotel room, or there's something plugged into your wall in your bedroom just sitting there. As long as you install Tailscale and get that client configured, they can all see each other and talk to each other securely. Why is this important though? So instead of paying someone to host something in a data center so that it's available to everyone on the internet, Tailscale lets you have that point-to-point mesh network, a peer network, VPN. So if you want to host a Minecraft server, you don't have to pay someone for it. You can just use a LAN server and have everyone join the same Tailscale network, and then it's as if you're all on the same network. It's great. Another potential application is the home lab. So a lot of people like to make home labs to learn, to host their own things, self-hosting things like Nextcloud if you want to replace Google Drive or OneDrive. Tailscale makes this a lot easier because instead of having to host something and open up a port to the whole internet, you just connect everything to the same tailnet and you're good to go. In case you're new here, my name is Steve and this is PageKey, where we are taking back tech. We're trying to wean ourselves off of the centralized systems that have come to dominate the internet. And a huge part of that's going to be things like Tailscale, enabling peer-to-peer and mesh networks and things like that. So let's get into what Tailscale is, how it works, all that stuff. Let's get into accessing your devices from anywhere with Tailscale. So what are we talking about today? First, we'll start out with what Tailscale is, then we'll go into how it works. There's a lot of info about that out there. We'll talk about some fears, vendor lock, spying. Are these things concerns for Tailscale? There is an open source version of Tailscale called Headscale. We'll talk about that. And we'll get into, of course, how to install and use it, what commands you need to type in your computer to get this working. So what is Tailscale? It's a VPN service, but it's not like the other VPN services. Your devices become accessible from anywhere in the world, similar to a normal VPN, but the big difference is instead of everything going through a hub, which may or may not be close to you, it could be on the other side of the country, Tailscale allows you to form a mesh network or a peer-to-peer network using the WireGuard protocol, which allows your devices to speak directly to each other, not speak, but communicate. So instead of going through a central hub, they can form these point-to-point connections that are very useful, very efficient and fast, and very secure. So how does Tailscale work? Avery Pennaroon, sorry if I mispronounced that, wrote a very detailed and informative article on Tailscale's blog. So you can go to this and read the whole thing if you want. I'm just going to provide my notes from reading this article, my best understanding of how this works for you. So there's hub and spoke. That's the traditional VPN network where everybody has to go through that central VPN server to get to the other nodes on the network. And there is mesh network. So Tailscale helps you form a WireGuard mesh network, but how does it do it? So there is a control plane provided by Tailscale that provides the service of key exchange and coordination. So login.tailscale.com is just a shared Dropbox for public keys. What's this mean? So if you have public key authentication, right? Say these are two nodes, and they're both going to generate a public and private key. So this is your private key, and then this is your public key. I don't know. They both start with P. But anyway, so here's your public key. Wait a second. Here's your private key. Here's your public key. This thing, anybody can see it. It's not a big deal. You're not exposing anything if people see it. This one, never let it leave the device because anyone who has this key can sign messages as you and decrypt all the traffic coming to the node. So as long as you keep this guy nice and secure, you're good. But if you have two nodes, how do these guys talk to each other? Well, in order to encrypt traffic to send to this guy, he needs the other guy's public key. So how do you guys exchange keys? Well, that's where shared Dropbox for public keys comes in. So Tailscale provides that service. In detail, what does that process look like? Each node generates a public-private key pair. This is what we were just talking about. So there's a mathematical algorithm that they run, and then these two keys are linked in such a way that one is private, one's public, and all of those other rules apply that I talked about in the last slide. And then the node is going to contact the control server. So here's the Tailscale control server, and it's going to leave its public key there. So it's going to take its public key, put it into this little shared Dropbox for Tailscale to manage, and also provide some notes about itself. What's its name? Where is it located? Other things like that. And then Node is going to self-configure WireGuard with those downloaded public keys and addresses. Sorry, it downloads the public keys and addresses. So the other nodes on the network are doing the same thing. They're storing their keys. Tailscale is going to send all this info about the other people on the network to our favorite node here, Bob, and he's going to say, okay, well, now I can set up WireGuard so that I can directly talk to this guy and I can directly talk to this guy. Rest easy knowing that Tailscale is considered zero trust, so it is end-to-end encrypted. The private key, as long as you make sure that that never leaves the node that it started at, then you're good because that node is encrypting and decrypting packets as they travel across the connection. So even if they go through a bunch of middlemen in here, if there's a router here, someone else is inspecting your traffic, it's all encrypted and it can't be decrypted until it gets over here. It's encrypted end to end, so only the nodes are doing the encrypting and the decrypting. So unlike hub and spoke, no unencrypted packets need to be sent, which is a good thing. And I believe there was a bit of a caveat to this, so you got to read the article to figure out what the caveat is there, but it sounded a bit like an edge case and something we probably don't need to worry about. So how do you handle authorization, authentication, all that stuff? Well, technically all the public keys, there's no risk in sharing them, but the simplest way to implement this yourself would be pre-shared keys, where you have to enter a username and password in order to upload your public key and to download the other public keys. So if you want to add two-factor authentication with Google or something like that to, get an SMS message or a code off of a token, you can get fancy. So Tailscale, again, is arming us with what we need to do this ourselves, but Tailscale provides this to us out of the box. They give us an auth server and they use a third party for your login. So you log in with Google or something else. And Tailscale is trying to minimize the amount of your personal information that they're storing by reusing an existing account that you already have. Now, here's the part that's like black magic to me. I did not know this was possible, and I'm still a little bit blown away that they can make this happen. So Tailscale provides for the worst case where if you are on public Wi-Fi in a cafe on your phone and your laptop is sitting in a hotel room also on, 3 layers deep into some corporate network that they're connected through, right? Somehow, Tailscale, if they both connect to the Tailscale client, as long as they're both on the internet, they will find a way to directly connect to each other. Stun and ICE apparently are used, so I would say just read this article if you want more info about that. But also, Tailscale provides these DERP servers, what a great name, designated encrypted relay for packets. So Tailscale puts a bunch of these DERP servers, say one's right here. There's a Tailscale server. Here's another Tailscale DERP server right over here. And I'm going to change colors. So when these guys can't find each other on the same network, they're going to go over to the DERP server and whichever one's closest to them. And then these guys exchange some kind of information that allows them to make the connection. So even though these two nodes have no public facing ports on the internet, they don't have any firewall ports or anything open, and they really have no way of seeing each other because they're so far buried behind NAT traffic, these DERP servers are sitting out there listening for those devices. So those devices can reach directly out to the DERP servers, and then the DERP servers, they handle the rest and give them the information that they need to be able to talk. I just drew all over the slide. What else is on this slide worth mentioning? I'm going to change colors again just for fun. The only other thing to mention is that this DERP server is apparently very straightforward in terms of code. Tailscale made that open source, and boy, are they good citizens. They're doing all kinds of good open source stuff. They also contributed back to WireGuard Go because they're using WireGuard extensively, specifically the Go version. So they've made contributions to that repo. Thank you, Tailscale. Good stuff. I also had to snip a quote right out of this article and just read it because it sounds nice. So sadly, developers have stopped building peer-to-peer apps because the modern internet's architecture has evolved almost by accident, or maybe because it's profitable, I don't know, entirely into this kind of hub and spoke design, usually with cloud providers in the center charging rent. So yeah, you have your GCP, your AWS sitting right here, and they're charging everyone to host their stuff on there. Even, startups and everybody, they are hosting their stuff on there because it's nice and easy and everybody's going through these big centralized sources. But hey guys, come on, we got to find a way to get our stuff talking to each other on our own infrastructure. We don't need to be here. We can use our laptops and our home servers, get an old laptop, make a server out of it, and let's really invest in how do we get peer networks working again. This guy is talking from this person who wrote this article, talking from a place of nostalgia of the old internet where peer-to-peer was a thing. And I think we can bring that back. Let's take back tech because, if we start doing this sort of thing, then, it doesn't matter if this cloud thing still exists. Sure, it should exist, but there's more to life than just this big centralized cloud. Come on, guys. Come on. What should you know about vendor lock? So if you start using Tailscale, are you stuck with it? you're going, forever dependent on Tailscale, kind of like buy an iPhone, then you have to buy a Mac and you buy everything else. Is that going to happen? Are they going to ecosystem lock you in? I was very skeptical at first because I didn't want to get on some private, closed source thing and then rely on it for my home network. But really, they're doing a complicated thing for us for free pretty much. And everything that they're writing online is geared towards helping you do it yourself if you really wanted to. So they're telling you how it works. They're telling you, all this stuff. Their derp servers are open source. There's even an open source version of their control server. So from what I can tell, there's the control server, there's the derp server. There's not much else going on there other than the client, which, is completely free anyway. So I don't see a lot of opportunity to get really super locked in with Tailscale. And I really do believe in their good intentions here. I think they're trying to do a good thing for the internet while also making money. So yes, they are trying to make money and they have to eat, but they're producing an insanely high quality product and making it very available for people, even if they can't pay. And you get a lot out of it. I have not needed to upgrade the plan at all, the way that I've been using it. Advanced users, businesses, enterprises, sure, they have paid plans for those sorts of specialized needs. But the thing that I really respect about Tailscale is that they've given away for free enough for the average person to really use their product to the fullest. It's awesome. So they're giving the ammo to do it yourself. And if you want to dive deep, you can and do it yourself. And I think this is how it should be done. Providing a great service, arming people with the knowledge to do it themselves. Big thumbs up from me. So can Tailscale spy on me? That's a good question too. It's another fear. Now, unless you want to go audit the code of WireGuard down to the lowest level, everything that I can tell is no. They are using end-to-end encryption. Maybe they're misleading us. Maybe they're just saying that. And they're actually, their client is spying on you. I don't know. I can't tell you. All I can tell is that this company seems to have very good intentions. And if they are truly establishing these WireGuard connections, then that end-to-end encryption, as long as you protect your private key, you should be in good shape. So for what it's worth, in my opinion, no. But you can't really know unless you really just deep dive everything, which you would need multiple lifetimes to do that. So we're going to have to operate on faith here. Headscale is the open source alternative to Tailscale. It's available on GitHub right here. You can read all of it. And this is specifically the control server, which allows for key exchange. So when you do Tailscale up, we'll see it. That is what is doing that. So it has a Discord, all kinds of support. I was very stubborn when I first was looking into Tailscale, and I was like, no way I'm using Tailscale. I'm going open source. And I tried to use Headscale, and I couldn't figure it out. It was very complicated. I also had never used Tailscale before, which is probably why it was so complicated. Maybe if I went back to it, I'd be able to figure it out. But honestly, if you're interested in Tailscale, I would say just go ahead and try it and don't go crazy trying to do everything 100% open source free software. You can circle back and look at this if you would like to later when you're a little more familiar with it. And maybe I will, I don't know. So now let's get into how to install and use Tailscale. We're going to install the client. We're going to turn it on, click the link to log in and do the key exchange thing and, log in, register an account, repeat for other devices. And then we are free to do Tailscale status, see what's up, and then start pinging, SSHing, things like that. First, we need to install the Tailscale client. So I am a recent convert to the NixOS way of life. So if you are using NixOS, I'm going to go ahead and call that one out first because I really like NixOS. So all you have to do is edit your configuration.nix file, which is your main system file, add this line, rebuild your system, you're done. Linux, also quite easy. Just copy and paste this script. Of course, you'll want to download this and take a look at it to be sure that it's secure because that's good practice. But at the end of the day, you could just copy, paste this, it'll install and you're good to go. Everybody else, so let's be real, they have Windows, they have Docker, they have Android, they have Mac, they have iPhone. They've got it all. So if you want to use Tailscale and connect a device, just go download it. Download the client or use their app. Specifically for Linux, you are going to run sudo tailscale up and it'll give you a link to go open. At this point, you can log in or register an account with Tailscale, and it's going to use those third-party logins as we mentioned. And now repeat for other devices. Do at least one because it's really boring. If you only have one device, you need at least two so that they can talk to each other. Now let's see what we can do. We can log in. We can do all kinds of stuff. So you can ping. That's the easiest one probably. If you have the SSH daemon enabled, you can SSH in. So laptops typically have that disabled, but maybe you have a server that you can SSH into. And there's all kinds of different stuff. So remember, just run Tailscale status. Everything has a magic DNS name that you can use instead of an IP address or a host name. Just use the name provided by Tailscale status. And that's it for this video. So we went through how Tailscale works and why it's secure, and we figured out how to make our own tailnet and access our devices from anywhere. Very good. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and we will take back tech together here at PageKey. Popular topics are self-hosting, rebuilding things from scratch, and much more, just general tech topics of interest. So if you like those things, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video. Thank you for watching.